I, 25 female, agreed to be a surrogate for my sister and her husband, late 30s, but I'm regretting it now. For the most of my life, my sister Alice has been wanting kids, but has been unable to carry a baby to full term, in part due to endometriosis. She was in a lot of pain and had to have a hysterectomy. Alice and her husband Ben have fostered 5 children and have adopted 2 children with autism and are really great parents. They have a good home environment and are financially very well off. But recently, Ben, and after a while, Alice, was bitten by the urge to have a kid biologically related to them because they wanted a chance to do things right and provide the best start in life. Their views, not mine. So they asked me to be their traditional surrogate and said that they would cover all costs, legal, medical, etc., associated with it. They would also be paying off my student debt, renting a 2-bedroom apartment for 3 years, plus giving me a substantial amount of cash. I said sure, it'll be 9 months of my life in exchange for being set up for quite some time, and my immediate family thinks it's a great idea. However, when I said sure, I was expecting something along the lines of IUI, where we go to the doctor to get Ben's sperm prepped, me getting shots, etc. Basically, the whole artificial insemination package. But Alice and Ben have asked me to, well, get pregnant the traditional way. The rationale is that 1, it is the cheapest way, 2, they don't want to go to the hospital given the pandemic, and 3, they think babies conceived naturally are healthier and the pregnancy would be safer without the chemicals. But I just can't get over the extreme ick factor. And even if this was going to take place at home, I think a syringe would work fine. Ah, the mental image! Ah, yuck, 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 yuck. Am I going loony for thinking of going back on my word? Is this is so nasty. I'm sorry. Is their request reasonable? My immediate family doesn't see anything wrong with it and has been congratulating my sister on her impending baby. On the other hand, if I do give it up, I'm crazy for passing up what is essentially $200,000, especially in this economy now. I see that I am completely out of my depth here and will be discussing with my sister about alternatives that don't include me carrying the baby. Not looking forward to that discussion though. All of the comments on my previous posts show me that I'm way too young, dumb, and ignorant with what I signed up with. I started researching actual lived experiences and I read so many horror stories and that I've decided not to go ahead with being involved in any way, shape, or form with helping them have kids. In fact, I'm not even sure I want to ever get pregnant after all the stories about 3rd and 4th degree tears, poop, miscarriages. There's a girl on TikTok with a list about all those reasons, so we already know. I am clearly not in the right stage of life/maturity to even consider doing something of this magnitude. The difficult part was mustering up the courage to call my sister to tell her my decision. I really look up to my sister and love her lots, and our family and religion has always been about helping others out when we can. When I called her to tell her, we had a short convo at first where I basically said, sorry, I can't do it, but that doesn't mean I love you any less. She seemed sad, but she said she was happy to respect my decision, and I thought that was it. Then, just last night, sister and brother-in-law called me back over Zoom. My sister was crying and begged me to reconsider, as both of them really wanted biological kids. Brother-in-law told me that they were really disappointed in me and hoped that I would find it within me to do this. When I told them my concerns, my brother-in-law just said pregnancy and motherhood is a beautiful and natural process and that I was made for this. I'm so glad I did this over video call instead of person because I just hung up on them and faked having connection problems. I've been ignoring their text so far and frankly I don't know what else to say. But anyway, thank you all from the bottom of my heart for opening my eyes. There's another update. Leaving for the airport in a few hours to move across the country and I can't sleep. I plan to slowly phase out contact with my family and community even though I love the people in their lots. Long story short, I went over to Alice and Ben's house to visit their kids in May. While there, they asked me in person to reconsider my decision. Sometime during this, Ben started kissing and groping me. Ah, no! What? I let him. I know typing this out makes me seem dumb for going over and weak because I was. Oh, what the fudge, what the fudge, oh my god! But I just froze, and it was very difficult to say no in the moment, especially with my sister crying and Ben having quite a presence in person. Trust me, I've replayed that scenario so many times in my head, wishing I was stronger in that moment. Luckily, that was the extent of it, and I was able to leave shortly after, because I don't know what I would have done otherwise. I also received, surprisingly, no support from my parents or my bishop regarding my earlier decision. I didn't tell anyone about the recent event. I don't think they knew what Alice and Ben were asking me exactly, and I didn't bring it up either. I was already sort of an outsider for not really conforming to the usual lifestyle of being married with kids, but this still shocked me. All these things combined made me reevaluate my life. Working from home and having this much time alone has given me a lot of time to think about things. I fell down the rabbit hole of reading stories of people who also left the church and I want that life for me. So I spent the last 3 months making arrangements, transferring to another part of my company, and today is the big day. Thank you for the advice and stay safe, everyone. Am I wrong for threatening to kick my dad out of my wedding because he kept apologizing to his fiance whose birthday it was? My dad has been with Marissa for about 2 years and they just got engaged. I don't have much of a relationship with her as she isn't a pleasant person. I don't know Marissa's birthday and don't see why I would be expected to, but my wedding ended up falling on her birthday. When my dad found out the date, I could tell he was stressed. He said she has a lot of trauma and he feels so guilty spending her birthday at my wedding. I didn't say much and figured they could work it out. Well, my wedding was last weekend. I'm not sure if Marissa was upset or not. She is very stoic, so I don't know, but my dad kept apologizing. When they first arrived and he came to see me in the bridal room, he brought her for some reason, and as they walked in, I could hear him say sorry and asking if she was okay. Right before the ceremony, he had her on his lap and ew, gag. At my wedding, dad, no. Ugh. Right before the ceremony, he had her on his lap and was whispering, but I could hear it. He was saying he wished she would open her birthday presents, and she was like, I just don't want to do it today. Then he said, what if she opens them and he buys new ones for the day they celebrate? Ugh, ew, this guy is so whipped for her. Then my grandma came over and tried to give her a gift, and he was just so annoying about it. Final straw was during the reception. Marissa was complaining to my grandma how she hates chocolate cake, the only cake we had. And my dad took her in his arms and was asking if she wanted to go out later and get something, and again apologized. I finally snapped and yelled at him, if my wedding was such a burden, take the child he is dating and get the fuck out. I meant because of her actions, there isn't really a big age gap. He looked horrified and I was like, well, go. My grandma immediately began to berate me that I am awful and he paid for the wedding. He asked if I really wanted him to go and I told him to either shut the fuck up about her birthday or go. He stayed but was cold the rest of the night, and I heard Marissa and my grandma joking about how he should rip up the check he gave me for how I spoke to him. I don't know if I overreacted as he was just having empathy for his fiancée. He's a whip. That's not empathy. He's whipped. I'm ghosting all of my friends and I can't wait. Back home, I had a really close friendship with all of my friends. At least I thought so. We would hang out fairly often and we would have so much fun together. We would talk pretty much every day and things were great. Then I moved to a different state and everything changed. My friends barely spoke to me. I was usually the one starting conversations and calling them. They rarely answered. When they did, it's more often than not no longer than 10 to 15-minute call, and if I text them, chances are they won't answer for days. I've brought this up to my closest friend and they've apologized and said they do better, and they did for a little, but then things went back to the way they were. I brought this up to my closest friend and they've apologized and said they do better, and they did for a little, but then things went back to the way they were before, unsurprisingly. This friend has a tendency to only call me when life is going wrong for them or when they need advice about their problems, but when life is going wrong for me, they never answer and just aren't there when I need them. Now, I understand life happens and I'm not going to claim I'm the world's best friend, but I'd like to think that I'm an okay friend. I answer the moment they call or text no matter what I'm doing. I drop everything I'm doing and stay on the phone with them for hours when they're sad or need me. I always check in and make sure they're okay, and they always say I'm their go-to for advice, so I think I'm doing an okay job. But for some reason, I just don't get that in return. Recently, something happened in my life, and while it's not earth-shatteringly major, all of my friends have been MIA, and have only spoken to me when I've called them about it and they miraculously answer. I even have one friend who I tried to tell about it. I called and texted and they didn't answer, but when I called another friend a few days later, they were hanging out together that night. And for some reason, that moment absolutely shattered my heart. The way they've been recently has made me realize that they don't really value our friendships very much, and my partner mentioned the same thing when I broke down to them about it. After that breakdown, I made the choice to just not call or text any of my friends to see if they even notice. So far, they have not, and now I've made the choice to ghost them all. No warning, no reasoning, no apologies, just poof, and I absolutely cannot wait. I had to treat my own daughter after a car accident last night because of a drunk driver. I, 39 male, am a paramedic. I've seen some crazy as well as scary stuff working as a paramedic. Last night was for sure the worst. It was 10 p.m. getting close to the end of my shift. We got a 911 call about a car accident. When we got the call, I had a bad feeling and I didn't know why. Then when we got to the scene, I found out it was my daughter's 16 car that got hit. She was in critical condition and we had to take her ASAP. All of her vitals were low and then her heart stopped. We had to revive her. She made it to the hospital. She had 8 broken ribs, which caused a collapsed lung and broken blood vessels, causing her heart to go into sudden cardiac arrest. She also suffered a spinal injury, and doctors aren't sure if she'll be able to walk again. They put her in a medically induced coma to give her body rest. The man who hit her was driving drunk. The only injuries he suffered were a broken wrist and some bruises. It is so unfair that my sweet 16-year-old daughter, who is just on her way home from work, has to suffer when the drunk driver suffers from only minor injuries. I see it all the time and it's so unfair. I just needed to get this rant off my chest.